Welcome to the Hypnotic Healers Podcast, your home for insights and insider knowledge about hypnotic change work. With your hosts, control practitioners and hypnotists, Nicole Mazzucato and Anthony Gitch.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Hypnotic Healers. I'm Nicole Mazzucato, and as always, I'm here with my friend and co-host Anthony Gitch, all the way over there. Our usual disclaimer: neither Anthony nor I are licensed medical professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, or anything like that. So please do not make any changes or alterations to any treatments or medications that you're on based on the conversation you hear here today. Take what you like and leave the rest. And while you're leaving stuff, leave us a like, a love, a heart, thumbs up, whatever you choose. Get in touch, drop us a line, drop us a message, say, hey, we love to hear from you. And let's just dive right in. Hello, Anthony.
Hello. Yeah, let's just dive right in. Today, we're going to be talking about kind of mentors, the use of mentorships. What is the best use of a mentorship? You know, who are the people that we can turn to in support of not just the business administrative aspect of our businesses, but even when it comes to when we run into a possible challenge with a client, you know, where we've run into a stump, right? Or something has stumped us rather. You know, who is it that we're looking for or looking to for assistance in those times?
Yeah. An important topic, especially if you're, well, actually, I say that if you're a practitioner, but you know, we have people who listen to this that aren't practitioners, and we're aiming at people that have an interest in change work as well as practitioners. And actually, if you think about it, in most professions, you have some sort of mentor, supervision, or support network around you in some way, shape, or form. Potentially when you are self-employed, maybe that's you have to go a bit more out of your way to make sure that you've got that around you. And as most hypnotherapists and coaches, well, maybe not so much coaches, but most hypnotherapists and practitioners are working solo, you do have to go out of your way to make sure that you are part of a support network.
On a previous episode, we had a guest who mentioned the fact that sometimes we feel as if we've got the answer for everything. And it's really good when we have people there that can tell us, check your shit. And not only that they are going to help keep us in check when we sometimes lose sight of that, but we can go to and say, this is what I'm experiencing with this client. This is the challenge. This is the block that I'm having in helping them get to where it is that they want to be. What do you see?
Yeah, our blind spots, right? This is what we're talking about. Everybody has blind spots. I don't care who you are. You've got blind spots.
Yeah.
Right? Things that you can't see. And you should be talking about the things that you're working with more than, you know, okay, so I think there's multiple aspects to this, right? There's aspects to make sure that you're working in a way that is safe for you and your clients, right?
Absolutely.
There's an aspect that, you know, it's kind of a self-care aspect as well, right? Where you're kind of sharing, not necessarily whatever you're sharing, it's being in a support network or having a mentor or supervisor, let's say. It is the opportunity for you to share your own processes as well when you're working with people, because as we all know, we're working with other humans, and being a human is messy, right? So we also need to make sure that we have a space to unmess some of the mess that we take, that we maybe unintentionally take with us.
Well, yeah, you know, that's a whole other conversation. Right? About containment boundaries. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Who is it that you're going to find that, you know, like for, I mean, that's how this podcast even began, was you and I being that for each other in a very structured way, you know, kind of doing that thing together. And even you and I have people that we use as sounding boards away from each other, certainly outside in completely different worlds of thought. And I think I think it's important to be able to bring that in to keep us well balanced as practitioners, as people that are, we need to make sure that we are staying on top of our own game and that we are keeping an eye on our own side of the street. And I think that that's where a mentor comes into play sometimes, because they're going to call us out when they don't see that happening.
Yeah, maybe we should sort of think about, because there is a difference between a mentor and a supervisor, right?
Yeah.
My understanding really is that a mentor is there to educate, guide, and help you grow, right? Whereas, that might not be entirely right, and I'm sure you've got a different take on that. And a supervisor is overseeing what you're doing and helping you to correct where you could improve. Does that, maybe that's, I'm not really sure that was the best.
No, I think that's good.
Interpretation.
I think that's good. See, to me, I guess and that's good to hear you say that, as I'm setting up the mentorship program that I'm doing and everything. It's interesting because to me, the supervisory role, the helping you correct where things may not be working, that I think to me is part of a mentor's role. That's the ability, to go, have you looked at this? Not to necessarily call them out, but have you looked at this, right? When it comes to the challenge you're experiencing with this, have you looked at this as a possibility that it's feeding this sort of thing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, it does. I don't know, the semantics of the definitions of mentor and supervisor. I do think they are different roles, but there is potentially, and I'm sure, a lot of overlap as well in what they provide.
Well, you've certainly got my mind just exploding right now. It's finding it very difficult now to focus, because it's like, oh my God, I need to go and make sure I'm setting this up the way I'm selling the right message, right? Because right? What is the definition of mentorship for other people compared to supervision, right? Am I speaking the same language that they're talking? Because if I'm not, they're not going to get what they're looking for, right?
Absolutely.
And if I'm not, that I'm not going to get what I'm looking for when I go to somebody, right?
Yeah.
It's that whole clearly defined sort of packaging sort of thing. And I've got my old coaching contract that says, very specifically, this is how I engage, and this is how you're expected to engage, right? And yeah, I'm gonna have to revisit that stuff and check some of that out again. Ooh, now you've got me kind of going. Thanks. See why we all need mentors and people that we can bounce stuff off of?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about regulated professions, so if you think about, psychologists, psychiatrists, they do have to undergo supervision,
Correct.
not necessarily mentorship.
Correct.
Right? A mentor for me is somebody who teaches you and shows you how to grow within the profession. Right? So it may be that you're kind of, whatever role it is, you're in a company, you look for somebody more senior who you can kind of shadow. They're going to explain to you a bit more about the role and how to kind of move up. Do you know what I mean? How the things that you need to do to be able to move up in that role. Whereas, supervision in a therapeutic context is, as I mentioned before, are you working? So let's say you belong to a regulating body. They want to know that you're carrying out your practice in a way that is within the guidelines set out by ethical codes and legal practices and whatnot. Obviously, we don't have that as hypnotists, as hypnotherapists, because any bodies that are out there have just been made up by someone, right? They're not
right.
which is the truth. They're not, they're not government regulated bodies because, well, anyway, in the UK, hypnosis is not a regulated practice.
Right.
I don't know
well,
how.
And I mean, you're right, and so so I'm not off. Yeah, I don't think I've ever gone and had supervision. Right, the only supervision I've ever experienced is when I had to do my case studies. Right, that's a supervision sort of project that is required of all control practitioners, right? You've got to do those 5 case studies. We've got to review those. We want to make sure everything is being, that's definitely supervision. And that is different than the mentoring. To me, mentoring is what are the tools that help you to finesse and have a deeper understanding of the art that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Helping you to be able to look at things in a new fashion, or, in a new kind of, with a new set of eyes, because, you're the only you, right? You're the only one who does what you do. There is nobody else who does what it is that you do. There's nobody else who does what it is that I do. There just isn't, because my background, my experience is different than your background and experience. Right. And so the mentorship that I offer to people is going to be very different than the mentorship that you offer to people, because, and I think that that's the beauty of it, is that everybody's going to be able to take from and go to the kind of people that inspire them to want to do better. Right. Someone that they feel like they can model.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think so. A mentorship is definitely something more voluntary, right? That you're seeking out as a professional or whatever. You're seeking out a mentor because you are interested in learning and growth, like you've just said, right? Whereas supervision and support, I think, is something that you should be, obliged to be engaging in on a regular basis as a practitioner, especially, like I say, if you're working alone, you're self-employed, which most hypnotherapists are, most practitioners are, you need to have a safe space that you can go and take cases to, whatever it is, that you're, or even if it's just to sit in and listen to what's going on with other people. That's so incredibly valuable. I cannot tell you how valuable that is, to sit in and listen to what's going on with other people. And that can just also, you learn so much from that, and it can also bring up, your own things that are happening that maybe you haven't even realized were there.
Oh yeah,
I found group supervision sessions so valuable in that sense. Even if I rock up and I'm like, I've got nothing to talk about today, and like, oh, this is really, really
it's those
relevant.
days when you have nothing to talk about that all of a sudden you're like going, oh wow, it's a good thing I was here today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a safe space for those of us that are continuously holding space for other people. It's a safe space to be held as well. It's a safe space to be vulnerable and say, do you know what? This week's been particularly hard, whether because of a client or, a few clients, or not, just because it's been a hard week, or, and it's, so it's not a therapy session. Don't get me wrong. We're not going there to be therapized, right, or coached, but just to have a space where you can just let off a bit of, and to have other people holding that space for you.
Yep, it's important for sure, and I think that, and like I said at the start, whether that's someone that you just know in the community that works in the same field that you do, or a similar field that you do, but I think it's something that we all need to. I think it's important that we all have those people that we can check in with. at those levels. And when whether we think we need it or not, I think it's a good idea that we have those people there. Like you said, particularly in the therapeutic sense, it's even like the practitioner forums that we hold as control practitioners. That's important time for practitioners, because there's an opportunity for them to get to share what's going on, and to pause, and this is where I might be struggling with something. This is where I excelled at something, and it may help you. That kind of stuff is important.
Yeah. And it's also a great place to network and to meet other people. I've connected with loads of other coaches and therapists because they're contributing, and you really connect with what they're saying. You really like how they're approaching something. And then you sort of contact each other often. Hey, I really appreciated what you said there. Let's connect, let's grab a coffee or whatever it is, and it's a great networking opportunity. I always say to students, your most valuable resource are your fellow students and your fellow practitioners. Once the course is finished, right? You go away and do whatever you want with that. But if you're planning on doing this work, you cannot have anything more valuable than fellow practitioners around you, whether that's 2 or 3 or 10, I don't care, but create your own network there. So you've got people that you can go to, that you can do sessions on each other, that you can talk about, business, you can try stuff out on each other, and, build that network. And that's got to come from you. You've got to be the one to build the network. You've got to be the one to reach out to people and maintain those connections. I've got a number of people over the years that I've stayed in contact with, more so or less so. I've tried stuff out on them. They've tried stuff out on me. We've given each other really honest feedback. We've helped each other with business ideas. We've just sat and chatted on the phone, or on Zoom or whatever. These are people all around the world that I've never seen in person. Some of them I've never met them in person. Some of them I've met them once in person. But they're a key part of my practice. They're a key part of what I do.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to have those people in your life. I mean, I know that, like you, I've got friends all over the place now. But mine, it's interesting. I've got a very select few that I actually will go to because I know what I need generally, or, there we go, thinking that we know what we need. But, I know the kick in the ass that I sometimes need, and I'm going to call Karen Bosque, who was on the show once, right? I know when it is that I need to call Karen. I know when it is that I need to contact you or Tim, and I know when it is I need to contact my girlfriend, Kim, who is so far outside of this whole realm of anything that has to do with anything therapeutic. But she's known me since I was 5. So there are things when I want to just get an opinion that is so different than anything I'm going to get from anybody in my professional world. I know I can go to Kim and I'm going to get a completely refreshing viewpoint that goes, oh, what the shit? I never even thought about that, because it's not her world.
Yeah. Yeah. That completely detached perspective.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And I think, look, going back to supervision, so supervision sessions, support sessions and things, I think the most important thing the facilitator can do is ask you, what do you need, right? Like what are you bringing and what do you need from us? And when I say us, I mean us. I mean, I've got a supervisor who very much opens it up to the floor before she'll say anything. She'll let whoever it is that's come forward say what, kind of share what they need to share, answer the question about what they need from the group. She'll open it up to the floor for people to come in and share their kind of experiences and thoughts. And then she'll kind of wrap it up and make sure that person's come away with what they needed. And I really appreciate that format. that she very much she takes a kind of back seat, if you like, and hands it over and trusts that everybody in that room has something valuable, whether they want to contribute or not. Not everybody's going to contribute all the time. Some people just want to sit back and listen, but everybody in that room has something valuable to contribute at some point in that conversation. And it couldn't be more true.
Right on. That's a great way to do that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what about you? Who are your mentors, and do you engage in supervision or support?
Yes, I do engage in supervision. Yes, I do engage in support. Well, I mean, I believe, absolutely, I engage in supervision. I believe that I engage in that through, participation in the control forums, right? In the practitioner forums when I experience TIMS, and obviously I teach them. But, when it comes to anything else, I'm trying to think. I've got a ton of mentors. Do I know any of them like personally? Yeah, a couple of them, but most of them I don't know personally. I just know their work, right? And I consider them to be mentors just because I do my best to model what I do after what they teach. Make sense?
See, I don't consider that a mentor. I consider that a role model or somebody, who's working.
Yeah, you're right.
For me, Tim is a mentor, and I will very much go to Tim when.
Oh yeah, yeah. Tim's definitely a mentor.
But Tim, I think, is probably one of the first people, and actually Howard has been that for me. In the past, and I will also go to Howard, but because the control system is my kind of default system, Tim will very much be one of the first people I go to when I need kind of a mentor.
Well, and he is certainly one of the first people that I will go to. Definitely. God, even with personal stuff, Tim has become one of the first people I'll go to because he's got his head wrapped around the world in a pretty straight way. And he does look at things very differently than I do.
And that's something that I really appreciate about Tim and his training is, as long as you remain part of the practitioners, the I can't remember what it's even called anymore, recommended practitioners.
Oh yeah.
Tim is always available. You need to run something by him. You're not sure about something. You've got a client that you're not entirely sure about. There's a supervision session or not. Tim is always available for control practitioners. Yeah. And I really appreciate that about him because, I've done other trainings that were immensely more expensive. And as soon as you've done the training, you're out on your ass.
Oh yeah.
Unless you're willing to pay a lot more money.
And Tim and I talked about that when I first decided to become a practitioner or a trainer for him. It's like, I think I love that part of what we offer. Because there isn't a control practitioner out there that knows, I believe, that they cannot at any time reach out to you or Tim or myself, and we're not going to get back to them. And help them, right? If one or the other one is not available. And I am proud about that.
Yeah. And I think it's something special. It is something special. And also the community is a reflection of who creates the community. I truly believe that. And I'm in a number of communities, and luckily the ones that I'm in and the ones that I follow, the ones that I engage with are top-down, beautiful communities because that's what people have established in their own way, right? In their own way, they've established a supportive environment where people feel completely comfortable putting their questions to the group, to the community, and the rest of the community, not everybody obviously at the same time, but are going to come forward and, here, let me share my idea with you, or this is my take on it, or, this has been my experience, or why don't you try this, or have a look at this. And that really does come from top down. It's the person who's created the community that sets up that what's the word?
The whole tone of everything.
Yeah, the tone. Yeah, the tone, the flavor, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and on that note, I think that we have covered everything about mentorship and supervision.
Well, I would
Have
say
we not? Well,
I'd
not
say
everything.
We've covered something.
Covered something.
Yeah.
And I mean,
whether or
it's
not everything, I don't know.
Well, not everything for sure, but yeah. And it helps me to kind of rethink some of the things that maybe I need to kind of look the way I was setting up the program. Because I was, like I said, I had the program before, but I left it in the dust. And I'm trying to reignite it. And I need to revisit that stuff to make sure that I am really covering the bases correctly, like we discussed today.
Yeah. I think one other thing to take into consideration here is if you're thinking about this is the difference between mentoring and training, right? Are you training people and teaching them new skills and upskilling them?
Yeah, no.
Right. So yeah, that would be for me another kind of leg that could
That's a
potentially
whole
cross
other
over.
thing.
Yeah.
No. That is definitely a clearly defined line.
Yeah.
That part
But
is.
there you go.
All right, sweetheart.
Cool. Well, thanks for the chat. See you in a bit.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Hypnotic Healers podcast. Don't forget to leave us a review and follow us on Facebook. You can also join our mailing list at hypnotichealers.com.